Welcome to the Raise Your Bars podcast, where it's all about elevating your life one step at a time. With your hosts, Chris Baker and Al Rattan. Together, we're here to guide you through the transformative journey of self-improvement and success. Have you ever wondered what behaviors and actions you need to change to achieve the results and success you desire in life? Well, you're in the right place. Each episode, we dive deep into the strategies, mindset shifts, and practical steps you can take to raise your bars. From personal development to professional growth, Chris and Al share their expertise, experiences, and the occasional tough love, all designed to empower you to reach your full potential. So, whether you're looking to make a big change or simply fine-tune your path to success, grab a seat and let's raise those bars together. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Chris Baker and Al Rattan.
Well, hello, everybody. We're back with another episode of the Raise Your Bars podcast. I'm here, of course, as always, with Christopher Baker. How are you doing, Chris?
Listen, you told someone not to call you Alan earlier, and then you're calling me Christopher. But I'm doing well.
Kind of just slipped out, but anyways,
Yeah.
I've never called you Christopher before either.
I know. No,
Every time I hear Alan, I think I'm in trouble because that's what my mom calls me, right?
I know.
So,
I look over my shoulder when someone says Christopher. I think I've done something wrong. So yeah.
yeah.
There
Oh,
we go.
it's life is interesting right now, and this world is kind of interesting right now. I've been watching some of the stuff going on, and I mean, we're talking about changing our paradigms and changing our life and going through
Yeah.
this book with Bob Proctor and changing the behaviors and actions that we need to change in order to have the results and success that we desire in life. And I'm just taking a look around at some of the stuff that's going on in North America today.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of behaviors and actions that need to change in order to get some decent results and success, because right now it's just seems to be going to chaos.
Certainly are. Yeah. Yeah. And I think a big thing of it is again, people not taking responsibility and accountability for their behaviors and actions, right?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
just looking at that, and then the blame game comes in, right? Well, it wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Well, no, but you didn't do anything to change it, right? And
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
what do you expect?
And I think that, especially, and we don't talk politics on this podcast, but I mean,
No.
obviously you're 2 months away from something that's going to happen in the US, and whatever side you're on, I don't really care. And I mean, we're not here to talk about politics, but I think there's a
No.
lot of worry and anxiety that is being caused right now because of the state of our political systems. And I think even in Canada, right? And we're not going to talk parties here, but even in Canada, it's a bunch of name calling and people being rude, right? Like, and I think if anybody
Yeah.
that was an employee of a company was doing what some of our politicians do today, they'd be fired.
Right.
They'd be fired. And I think that has people worrying. And today we want to talk about this. Paradigms in Cybernetics is what the chapter we're talking about today in Bob Proctor's book, Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. And he talks about Maxwell Maltz and Psychocybernetics, which is a great book. If you haven't read it,
Mhm.
folks, I highly recommend you do. But I want to just read this thought here, Chris, because I think, again, like I said, anxiety and fear are rising up within people because there's just uncertainty in the economy, in our political system, and in the world at whole, with wars and rumors of wars. But he says in here, it says, on a conscious level, ignorance is the cause of doubt and worry. Now, when you internalize these things, you set up a vibration called fear. So again, when you internalize this worry and this doubt, it all of a sudden turns into fear in your life. Like everything's against you, nothing's going right.
Yeah.
Our world's in trouble. And when that fear is expressed, and he says it must be expressed because it was impressed in the mind, it expresses itself in the body as anxiety.
Right. Yeah. I think that's spot on. And I'm a firm believer that actually anxiety and excitement are actually the same emotion. It's just how you perceive it, right? And effectively, it's your paradigm. Do you see it as excitement? Do you see it as anxiety? When you look at stage fright, for example, right?
Yeah.
Stage fright.
Yeah.
Some people will see stage fright and it paralyzes them, but that same emotion, other people will get that emotion, and it's like the adrenaline that pushes them on stage to actually perform and do well. It's the same thing, right? It's the same vibration, but how does your body receive that? What level do you tune into? Um, I know there's certain people will say we're talking, BS, right? Well, we are belief systems, but they'll they'll
Exactly.
they'll say that. But that's, again, if I'm honest about it, that's an indication of their vibration, right? And their
Right.
fear of accepting something that they don't understand.
And I think a lot of people don't understand the effect that allowing, and I'm not saying we stick our head in the sand and ignore what's going on around us, but
No.
allowing that to materialize and to take root as fear in your life, then it's going to come out as anxiety, right? And if you're
Mhm.
full of anxiety and fear all the time, what is that doing to you? It's preventing you from moving forward. It's preventing you from
Yep.
taking those chances or those risks or opening that business or starting that new podcast or whatever it may be. And Chris, I had terrible stage fright when I would take a failing grade in high school if I had to stand up in front of the class and give an oral presentation of any kind.
Mhm.
I didn't do it. I would
Mhm.
fail me. I don't care. I'm not doing it. And I always joke around, now you can't shut me up. But that's I had to change my paradigm and my belief that nobody really wanted to hear from me. And I overcame a lot of that in grade 12 when I reluctantly asked to have a part in our school play. And I had a blast. I was
Yeah.
terrified, like shaking in my boots, going on stage in front of a few hundred people for 3 nights in a row. But I had so much fun doing that play, and it helped me overcome a lot of the fear because you know what?
Right.
Yes, I was scared, but I went and I did it. Nothing bad happened. So that anxiety, I think, did, like you said, turned into excitement.
Right. Right. Because the experience you had was a pleasurable one in the end, right? So
Yes.
it took time, and the same for me. I'm not I'm naturally more reserved. I don't want to be the center of attention, right? If I'm at a party or whatever, I'll be the one in the corner with a drink and something to eat and not wanting to talk to anybody. That's who I am, right? But when we do what we do in by teaching and coaching, and now my whole job is that I do that because I love what I do, right? And therefore I overcome those feelings of wanting to be reserved and sort of worried about speaking up, because I believe in what we do. And there, I think, is another thing, right? If you've got that belief in what you do, and you understand why we've talked a lot about purpose and cause and living a meaningful life, I think that helps turn that anxiety into excitement, because you look forward to making a difference, right? Whatever that is for you, it doesn't matter, right? I knew a facilitator at Disney Institute one time, was a really, really good facilitator. And she would tell me, before she went on stage, every time she would go to the bathroom and throw up.
Yeah.
But when she did it,
Yeah.
she went on stage, she was fine,
Yeah.
right? So that's a professional that was doing that.
I had a pastor friend of mine who at the time had been pastoring for well over a decade. So up there every Sunday
Mhm.
teaching to people he knew, right? To people he knew. And he said every Sunday he didn't throw up, went the other way, but every
Yeah,
Sunday,
right.
every Sunday that he had that experience before he went and spoke at church.
Yeah.
And that was to people he knew, he was familiar with, but people have that whatever, that fear, and some
Mhm.
overcome, some persevere and push through no matter what, and some still experience it and
Yeah.
they allow it to hold them back. And what we really want for you, our listeners, is to push through it so you can experience the amazing thing that happens when you overcome that. So in the book he talks about, this fear, anxiety is how it's expressed, and it's fear, it's caused by doubt and worry. He goes, on the other hand is understanding.
Mhm.
How do you get understanding? There's only one way: through study. He says you must study. And so, I mean, study could be reading a book, listening to a podcast, watching some
Whatever, yeah.
YouTube videos, whatever it may be, right? Understanding leads to faith, which is the opposite of fear. Faith expresses itself in well being rather than anxiety. and well-being is expressed as exhilaration.
Right. And that's really, what we were just talking about, really, right? That it's, and he was saying there that our thinking determines whether it's good or bad, right? So therefore our thinking will determine whether it's anxiety or excitement,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so what do you want, right? Do you want to live in fear, right? Do you want to live in fear of failure, or we say it's still fear, but live in fear of regret, right? Of not doing something because you don't want to fail, right? That's regret at the end of your life. We
And actually, I fear regret more than I do fear failure now,
and we
especially
should,
at my stage in life, right?
right?
I fear that having that regret more than and it actually, and we talked about this, I think last year. I read a study that as you get older, again, that fear of failure, what would I say? It lessens because you have that fear of regret is overwhelming you. So you're more willing to maybe take the chance and take the risk.
Yeah. Yeah, or though there's also people that will get there and so it's too late now, right? I've missed my chance. I've missed my boat. Well, it's never too late. All right. Fear is
No,
only failure is only final when you quit. Right.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
so it's never too late. And again, it's your paradigm. It's how you look at things. It's how you see things, how you think about things.
Mhm.
Right. If you one of my favorite quotes of Henry Ford again is like, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're usually right.
Right.
Again, same thing. It's the
Yeah.
power of your mind is tremendous, right? And we want to help businesses, we want to help individuals, but we also want to help businesses, because if we help businesses, then by proxy that will help individuals, right? And that pays it down
Exactly.
all the way through the line. And
Right.
you mentioned right at the start that the economy is a concern for a lot of people. It's a concern for a lot of businesses. So how do they approach that? Do they go into their shell and say, we're going to batten down the hatches and just see this through? That's probably fear, right? It's probably a negative thing, because guess what? You put your head in the sand, it's still going to be there when you come up.
Right. Yeah,
Or
exactly.
do they say, I'm going to make a difference, right? I'm going to change my behaviors and actions to get the results and success I want. I'm going to use a COVID word, pivot, right? I'm going to
Yeah.
pivot because what I'm doing clearly isn't working, right? What everybody else is doing clearly isn't working. Therefore, I've got to change my paradigm and change the way I'm doing it.
Yeah.
That's
It's
why
really,
we
how
do
do you
what we're doing.
yeah, exactly. And getting creative, and how are you setting yourself apart from your competitor? And I think that a lot of people, again, do the same old thing. Okay, well, recession's coming, I better put stuff on sale, I better discount more. Well, all it's doing is hurting your margin.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, your bottom line, then you got to sell even more product and get even more people in your store to make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
So there's different things there. But I want to read this one other line in the book. It says, because he's, again, tying it back, and we talked about our purpose a few episodes back. He goes, it's vitally important to study, but if we don't have a purpose and we don't have goals, we won't study.
Right.
So again, that understanding that leads to faith, which is the opposite of fear, right? Faith, and we're not talking a religious faith here, folks. We're just having faith and
Belief.
belief in
Yep.
yourself, in your
Yep.
family, in your community, in your business, right? That belief that you can overcome versus the fear that you're going to get overwhelmed. You have to know your purpose. Why do you exist? Again, we ask this question when we start working in business. Why did you start your business in the first place? Especially if this is of the owner of it. Why did you start? And we hear stories like, oh, there was a need for this product or service in my community. I finally wanted to stop working for someone else and do my own thing so I could make an impact and make the decisions I wanted to make. Great. Have you lost that passion? Do you still see that as your purpose?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of business owners have lost their purpose. It's become a grind or a chore, and they're overwhelmed and overworked,
Mhm.
and they've lost that purpose.
Yeah. And Al, it's not their fault, right? We're not saying it's their fault,
No.
We all get overwhelmed by the daily grind of life.
Hmm.
And when you're a business owner, it's multiplied, because it's not just you that you are responsible for. It's um your employees, right? You're
Yep.
obviously your family, but you are responsible for other people.
Right.
And and therefore what tends to happen is maybe they'll grind even harder. But again, if they're not got that purpose and direction and understand what they're for, and then if they try and take on too much themselves and don't delegate and don't give responsibility to the employees around them, if they don't look at what do their customers want, right?
Right.
And what do their customers need as well, but what do they want? How do they want to be treated? If they're not looking at that, if they're just chasing the dollar, which is what most people do, right? That's why they're looking at sales, or they're looking at offers, or whatever. They're looking at the dollar. They're not looking at what is the service we provide, right?
Right.
Why do people come to us? Why will people choose us over our competitors? And I have to say, I've become, I was talking about this to somebody yesterday. I've become a student of customer service, right? Because back in the UK, when I was running car dealerships, basically our net profit margin was the percentage we got from the manufacturers based off our customer satisfaction scores, right?
Right.
Everything else was a wash
Yep.
ultimately,
Yep.
right? With
Yep.
the expenses and everything. So, I once I realized that, I said we need to make sure that our customer service is excellent, right?
Right.
Um, and obviously it's there for that bottom line, but the real reason is, if you deliver excellent customer service, the level of their intent to return, the level of their intent to recommend you to other people will go up,
Mhm.
right? And then you're spending less on advertising and marketing, because repeat business is the easiest, most profitable business, right? You actually,
Yep.
what happens is the
Exactly.
net result is a plus plus plus.
Right.
And so I look at customer service everywhere I go, and I have to tell you that it is low, right? It is low.
It
And
is.
there in itself, I think, is the biggest paradigm switch, the biggest switch that a business can make in their operation today to make an immediate impact, right? Is work on that level of customer service.
I would think even like in a restaurant, right? I really noticed that now because again,
Yep.
we did our bars program with a restaurant ownership group and help them with their team. And we did one of the things we did was a customer satisfaction survey with that organization. They came back, they had a few things that they needed to work on, which they were at least willing to open to listen to that and work on it. But they also had, remember, they had one server particularly that kept coming up over and over and over again about how amazing this person was. And
Hmm.
we're like, what makes this so different? And this person was just attentive.
Yeah.
And a simple thing, I went out for lunch with a friend today and he had to ask, they came by, how's everything? How are the first few bites? Fine. They always come when your mouth is full. It's fine, thank
Mhm.
you. And then they end up coming back and bringing the bill without even offering to refill his coffee once.
Right.
And he had to ask, can I get more coffee? Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure. We'll get that for you. It's the little attentive details that I think are lacking in a lot of businesses today to really elevate that
Mhm.
customer service.
Yeah. And I look at things. Again, it could be anywhere where you are, but when you've got employees in your business and they're walking in a customer area, right? So whether it's in a showroom or whatever, they're walking in that area. If they're walking and there's a customer walking towards them, do they move out of the way and let the customer go by, or do they just carry on walking and expect the customer to move?
Mhm,
Right. I was
mhm.
always taught, you stand aside, you say good morning, you ask if they need anything, but at least you sort of acknowledge them, eye contact, but you
Yep,
move out of the way, you let your customers go.
yep,
If you're coming up to a door and there's a customer walking by you, you hold the door open, let them go out, and then you go through.
absolutely.
Right. Do I see that all of the time? Absolutely
No,
not. It's
no.
like people have got their head down. Sometimes they're on the phone. Sometimes they're just walking. They won't give you eye contact. They won't move out of the way. I had it at the weekend and I'm just like, this is crazy.
Mhm.
Right? It's small things that don't cost any money. But what's the result? Now we're talking about it.
Right. Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So how do you, Simon Sinek talks about it in, I don't know, we're talking about a different book now, but in The Infinite Game, I'm studying that with the Leadership Academy at work. And one of the things he talks about there is a young guy, I think his name was Noah, that he was a barista in a coffee shop in a hotel that he went to. Right. And he was saying how this guy was like, what, so like, personable and engaging, right, and giving excellent service. And it prompted Simon to ask him what he loved about his job, and he would talk about the managers always say hello, the managers always look after you. So again, it's leadership, which we talk about all the time. Right. That truly is again, it all starts, as John says, everything rises and falls on leadership. But then this Noah was telling Simon that he works at another coffee shop, which is completely different. And he doesn't like going there, and he doesn't want to do it, but he needs the money from both stores. So Simon was, again, if he went to that other coffee shop and he met Noah in that other coffee shop, he wouldn't have had the same experience with this guy, right, as he did in this hotel.
Yeah.
Not the person.
No.
It's the location.
It's the leadership, right? The culture, yes, exactly.
Culture, exactly. Yeah.
So here's the thing. We've been a little bit all over the place with this podcast, but I want one line out of the book and then we'll wrap up. Is this personal development does not have a finish line. So again, if you're a business owner and you're struggling and you're not getting the results and success that you once had in your business or that you thought you would achieve in your business, and you're struggling, then we're here. Chris and I, this is what we do. We're here to help you. So we want to send you to our website, raiseyourbars.ca. and scroll to the bottom of the page, and there you can book an appointment with us. There's a link to another page, and that's where you're going to be able to book a time with us. We're going to jump on a call with you, and we'll spend a little bit of time with you, just sort of dissecting where you're at and where you need to go.
Yeah, no cost,
no cost, and how we can help you. So raiseyourbars.ca, scroll to the bottom of the page, click that link. It's going to take you to another page. Just follow along. There's a little 7-minute video if you really want to watch and get to know us a little bit better. And then there's a form you can fill out, and we're gonna jump on a call with you and try and give you some strategies or some tips to help you get out of the rut that you're stuck in. All right. So that's we're here for you. So take advantage of that. I think that's it for tonight.
I think so.
There you go. Well, again, you've got some value to this, share this, family, friends, coworkers. We'd really appreciate it. Connect with us on social media. We've got some exciting things coming up. And tune in again next week for another episode of the Raise Your Bars podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Raise Your Bars podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please consider sharing it with your family, friends, and coworkers. We would sincerely appreciate it.